Good afternoon and welcome to Maximo's Start Centers and KPIs, brought to you by Projetech. Make sure everybody's in the right room. My name's Jackie Chischilly, and just a little bit about me. Prior to coming to Projetech, I was an MRO coordinator who did a lot of planning and scheduling and inventory management through Maximo. So I was a previous user. And a little bit about Projetech. Projetech's been around since 1992. So we've been in business for over 20 years, and we've been working with Maximo even before it was an IBM product. We're located in Cincinnati, Ohio, and always have been, so we've got a nice, convenient Midwestern location. And some of our offerings for Maximo is we offer hosting. So if you're looking for a cloud solution for your CMMS, or the wave of the future is cloud, we host more than 100 customers right now. We provide professional services for Maximo, which includes implementation, any customization, and among other things. We offer a help desk for support. That's staffed. You get a real person if you call in. And we're also a certified Maximo trainer, and that's for all versions of Maximo, not just the latest and greatest. So if you're all the way back to version 4 or you're still on version 6, we can offer training for your employees as well. We have multiple strategic partner alliances here in the U.S. as well as in Europe and Asia. So we do have a global presence. We're also a premier partner with IBM, and last year we were awarded a Strategic Business Partner Award at the Big Pulse Conference out in Las Vegas, which is coming up here real soon in March, so I hope some of you get the opportunity to go. So why utilize the Maximo Start Centers? Well, the ultimate goal of the Start Centers is to use the power of KPIs and result sets. It gives you a visual display of the key metrics or performance indicators, and it improves the efficiency of navigating the system through shortcuts that you can put on your Start Center. So why utilize the KPIs and the result sets? Well, KPIs provide a window into your system performance. And together with the result sets, they provide a comprehensive, individualized user dashboard that you can set up for your needs. Just a note I put down here, in order to develop meaningful KPIs, you must have meaningful data that is timely and relevant. So you need to keep the data that you're entering into your Maximo system up to date and make sure it's accurate. I put at the bottom, if you have any questions, to just email them to info@projettech.com. Because of the large audience we have here, we're not going to field questions during the webinar, but feel free to send questions and we'll respond ASAP. So on that note, we're going to jump into Maximo, and I'm going to log in here as our favorite demo person, Wilson. And the first thing we're going to see is Wilson's Start Center. And Wilson's Start Center here is for an MRO coordinator. But notice that you can have more than one tab up here. So if you wear more than one hat in your organization, you could have a Start Center for each one of those roles. And Start Centers are assigned to security groups. So each person in that group will have the same template initially. But a Start Center is configurable to the user, and it's managed through security. So if you have more than one security group, or if you're in more than one security group, you can have multiple Start Centers, like I have up here. Now, before we start creating our own Start Center, we're just going to take a review of what some of the things that are on a Start Center, exactly what they are and what they can do for you. So each one of these fields is called a portlet in Maximo. And just to show you, you can have as many portlets on your Start Center as you want, but if your Start Center gets to get too crowded, these little boxes up here can be used to minimize that particular portlet so that you can see all the way down to the bottom of your screen. So now we'll go over some of the portlets that you can include on your Start Center, and we're going to start with the Quick Insert over here. And Quick Insert is an application shortcut. It takes you directly to a new record ready to start entering data. So see, I've got new item or new work order. If you're a person who about all you do is create new work orders, if you click on the link here, it's actually going to jump right into the work order tracking application, ready to receive data for a new work order. I'll go back to the Start Center now, and no, I don't need to save my changes. If you do a lot of, well, hopefully you don't have a lot of, but if you do quick reporting for failures or emergency type maintenance, it's really handy to have the new work order via quick reporting in this portlet. The next portlet we'll look at is favorite applications. This is another shortcut into applications, but rather than opening a record, it lands you on the list page of that application. So if I click on inventory here, it's going to take me to the list page in this application. We'll jump back to Start Center. The inbox and assignments allows you to view your assignments from any application that was generated in a workflow. So if you've got a node in a workflow that you have to approve something before it can be moved on to do work, it's going to show up in your inbox, and you can design what columns you have in this inbox and assignments. What I've got here is a description of the work, the process that needs to be done, so it needs to be approved. And notice you've got a route icon right here in the Start Center, so that if you wanted to route this work order or PR or whatever it is that you're looking at, you can click this route button and process it through workflow to the next step. The next one we're going to look at is the KPI list. We'll talk about the KPI graph as well. A KPI measures the performance within your Maximo system. So by having it here on your Start Center, you have a quick visual look into the performance of your system. So like here I've got the average emergency completion time, PM work orders overdue, and these are PM work orders past target start. Some of the convenient aspects of having a KPI list or graph on here is you can jump right to your KPI from the Start Center. So I can either go by this little tab here, or I can go over here to the graph. I can just click on the graph and be taken directly to my KPI. If I wanted to see the historical trend or things such as that, I can see historical values as well. Now we'll go back to our Start Center. Up at the top here we have a bulletin board. Now, a bulletin board can't be customized to the user. You can't edit it to say what columns you want in it as such. But what the bulletin board is handy for is it lets you send messages, and you can send a message to one person, to a group of people, or to the entire organization. You can decide who's going to see your message. And it's used to create and view messages, usually regarding critical problems or incidents. If you have to announce that there's going to be an outage that afternoon and you want everybody who's on your maintenance team to see it, this would be a convenient place to put that type of message. The next one we're going to look at is the result set. And your result set is a user-defined query. And you can define this query in any application within Maximo and pull it into your Start Center. You can also create pie or bar charts based on your result sets. So if I click on this graphical view down here, I'll see this result set in a bar chart. And I have this bar chart broken down by asset so that I can see which one of my assets is being the biggest pain this week. But you could also have it broken down by location or by shift, however you wanted to break down the chart. Now notice I can also click on this chart and it'll take me to the list of all the work orders for that asset that are included in that particular bar. Let's jump back to Start Center. Okay, so that's a quick review of some of the portlets and how you can set up a Start Center. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to log out of Maximo, and I'm going to sign in as a different user, and I'm going to sign in as me, and we're going to create a new template together. Okay, so as you can see, I've already got several tabs up here. So I've set up my display. I've got this template up here. Then I'm actually going to save this so that it goes away. Now notice when you save a template, it disappears from your tabs up here, but it's still kept in the history. You can still pull it back up and see it, but we're actually going to create a new one rather than modifying an existing one. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to create a new template. Now I can name this template, so I'm going to name this as, I'll name it as, let's see, Jackie's New Start Center. So after we name it, the first thing you can do is select what layout you want. So the previous ones we saw were the default, where you have a narrow column on the left and a wide column on the right. But you can change that so you have equal width or you have wide on the left and narrow on the right. We're just going to stick with the default and stay with narrow wide. We named the template, and then we're going to save it because it's not going to let us change anything until we save it. So now you see there's nothing in here. So what we want to do now is change the layout so that we can start adding our portlets. So for the left column, it says left over here, we're going to select content. And we're pretty much going to recreate the Start Center that we previously saw. So we're going to include quick insert. We're going to include favorite applications. We're going to include inbox and assignments. And we're going to do a KPI list. And those will all show up on the left side. Now notice once you select the portlets that you want in there, you can change the name. So maybe I'll change this to, how about my assignments. I can change the order that they appear, but this is the order that I want them in, so I'm not going to change that. But you do have that option. And now we'll select the content that we want on the left side, or the wide column. We'll select the bulletin board, KPI graph, and results set. And click OK. Now these are not in the order that I want them. I would prefer that the result set be in the center and that the KPI graph be at the bottom. Okay, so now I'm finished. So now I have all these portlets that are empty with the exception of the bulletin board because there's a message in there to attend this demo. And that's going to show up as soon as you have a bulletin board on your Start Center if the message is active and you are in the security group that it was sent to. So the first portlet we'll edit is quick insert. So there's a little pencil icon here that if we click on that, it's going to allow us to start adding items to our quick insert. Notice we can change the name here as well if we didn't change it when we were setting up our layout. But I'll just leave this as quick insert. And here's where we select the actions that we want to include in our quick insert. So there's 98 of them. So I have to page through a couple pages, or I can filter. So let's see, I want a new message. So we'll do new message for bulletin board. Click OK. And then I want a new work order. So I'll filter for work, and I'll put in work order tracking, and I'll put in my quick reporting in case I have any emergency work orders I need to put in. Okay, so now we're finished setting up this portlet. And they show up over here with their icon and a direct link to open a record to start entering information. The next one we'll do is we'll populate our favorite applications. And it works the same. You can change the name up here if you'd like. And we select our applications. Now here we have 135 of them. So I'm going to go ahead and filter again. I'm going to filter for work and inventory. Click enter. So I want inventory over there. I want work order tracking. And I think that's about all I need in my favorite applications. So we'll click finished. And now we have our favorite applications populated. Now we're down to the inbox, or which I've changed the name to my assignments. So let's open that. And now we see we have 44 objects or items that we can put into our inbox in assignments. So I'm going to filter for this as well. I'm going to filter for description. I also want the due date, and I want the process, sort of what I had set up in the previous. Oh, I have to save it first. Let's try that again. We'll type in description. We'll type in due date. Actually, I'll just put due. And we'll type in the process. So here's my condensed list. I want description, I want due date, and I want the process name. And that's the name of the node and workflow. And I'll click finished. Now it's already pulled in my information. It's got the description of the work that's going to be done. It's got the process. And again, it's got the little icon, so I could route directly from my Start Center. Next, we'll set up our KPI list. This is where you select the list of KPIs that you mostly just want to see numerically. You don't really have to see the graphical version of it. I'm going to filter by KPI because I know which ones I want in here. And I want this first one. That's the average age of non-PM work orders. And I also want KPI 1, the average emergency completion time. We'll click OK and finished. And there's our KPIs in the list view. It automatically has the link here if we wanted to jump to the KPI. But it gives us what our target and what our actual is and what the variance is. So we can easily see that as soon as we open our Start Center. Next, we'll go to the bulletin board. And there's two ways to add messages to the bulletin board. As I said, this portlet isn't editable, so we don't have the little pencil over here. But I created this new message over here so that I could quickly enter a new message into bulletin board. And just to show you how a message is entered in the options you have for creating a message, let's put a subject in here, emergency meeting Friday morning. And we'll put in here, please be in room 12 at, let's see, 8 a.m. Okay, so that's our message. Here we can select an expiration date, so if you want that message to expire so that it's not out there when it's irrelevant, we can click a date here, and we'll click that we want it to expire, and we want it to expire at noon on Friday. Click OK. So now we have an expiration date. And here's where you can choose how many people and who you want to see it. So I could select organizations. Let's see, I just want a chemical manager and our North American facility to see it. And I can select the site. Use the select button, and let's pick Bedford and Detroit. Now for the person groups, I just want everybody to see it, so I'm going to click the top box up here so that it populates all of the check boxes. Click OK. Now notice it's in a draft status, so it's not going to show up on the bulletin board until I change the status. I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to go change the status, and I'll change it to approved. Click OK. Now when we go to our Start Center, we've got another message in here that we have an emergency meeting Friday morning, and please be in room 12 at 8 a.m. Now once I look at this message and then I refresh or I log out and log back in, the message won't show up on my Start Center unless I change this view. I can either delete it from a no, or I can put yes in there, and it'll show me all of the previous messages that I've viewed. Okay, the next one we're going to look at is the results set, which is probably tied in importance with the KPIs, because this is where we set up a query in any of the applications in Maximo, and we can pull in our query set onto our Start Center. So first we have to pick the query that we want, and I'm going to pick my 30-day schedule query. But there's queries in there from all different applications that I could pull in there, so you may want more than one result set on your Start Center. The first is to enter the columns that I want to display. And I want to display, let's see, I'll filter again. Thank goodness for filters. I want work. I want description. And I want the scheduled start date to show up. So let's hit enter and see what we get. We have description right here. We have the work order number. We have the scheduled start. And then we should have work type. Now as soon as I click save, it puts the 4 that I selected at the top of the list so that I can figure out which order I want those to appear going across my portlet. So for 1, I want the work order number, put 1 in there. For 2, I want the work order description. For 3, I want the work type. And for 4, I want the scheduled start date. Okay, my next option is the display options. And this is where you can put color alerts based on a particular condition. So I want my condition attribute to be work type, but I could select from any one of these if I wanted it to be location or if I wanted it to be asset or anything like that. I could pick any one of those. I'm going to pick work type. Where's my work type? Actually, take that back. I'm going to put asset in there. That's what we had in the previous one. So I want the asset. Now I want it to break up by asset number. So now we can add a color chart. And if I want that asset number to be, suppose I'm looking at a particular asset, I can put it equal to 11400. And I want that color to come out as green. So then I could save it. And I would mark finished. So now all my assets that are, all my work orders that are associated with that asset show up green here. I'm going to go in and modify this. because I decided I do want it by work type. So I'm going to type work over here. It'll give me an option to put more colors in there. Here's work type. So I still want it to be equal to, but I want it to be, if it's a PM, I want it to be green. And now I'm going to say if it's equal to CM, maybe I want it to be purple. Let's add another one. If it's an EM, for an emergency work order, I want those to show up as red. Now notice I have different expressions over here. Just to keep in mind that your result set can be a query out of a purchasing application or an inventory application, so you might want to have greater than or lesser than a dollar value or a quantity on hand or anything like that. But since I'm using work order tracking, mine's going to be equal to the work type. So I'll save. And here's where we set up our chart options if we want to be able to see a graphical view in our result set. I'll leave it as a bar chart, and this is the one that I want to display by asset. So we want the asset number in here. And we'll click Save, and now we'll click Finished. And now my result set's a little more colorful because it's set up to change the color based on the work type. And I also have my graphical view in here to see the work orders, the number of work orders by asset. But as we said previously, this could be set up for location, or it could be set up for shifts, whatever you wanted to see in your graph. Up here you could click on where it says bar. If I click on that, I could change this to a pie chart if I wanted to see sort of a relationship graph. And I can still click on the graph to be taken to the list of work orders associated with that particular asset. So we'll jump back to Start Center. We'll go back to our list view. And the last thing to set up is our KPI graph. So we'll go ahead and hit Edit. And notice I have nothing in here, so we're going to select our KPIs again. And I'm going to filter by KPI because I know which one I want to see. I'm going to open up KPI 10, which is open work orders. I'll click OK. I can change the name up here if I want to. I'll change it to open work orders. So that'll show up on my portlet as the name of my portlet as well. Now we've selected the KPI. We'll go ahead and hit Finish. It automatically pulls in the chart, and it pulls in the numerical values as well. But suppose I needed to change the way my graph over here looked, or my gauge actually, it's not a graph. Again, I can click and go into the KPI. If I wanted to compare KPIs, I could compare this with another KPI. Suppose I wanted to compare it with let's see, just all the ones that are waiting approval. I could click that, click OK, refresh chart. Well, that's kind of a skewed chart, but that's not really what I wanted to compare it to. I'll just delete this and refresh the chart again, and I'm back to my original trending chart. I can select the defined range that I want to see this trend in if I wanted to see it monthly, or any of these other options that are default settings within Maximo. But like we were saying, suppose we needed to change what the parameters were for our target, our caution, and our alert, this red, green, and yellow over here. We could set our target. Let's say we want the target to be 10 instead of 5. Notice my gauge over here moved to 10 rather than 5, so that's showing me what my target is now. Let's say we wanted to be cautioned at 30 instead of 20. We'll put a 30 in there. Notice the green area just got larger and the yellow area got smaller, but now we don't really need to be alerted until we're at 40. So notice now the looks of my chart over here changed, as well as my numbers up here. This is where you can select what you want to see on your KPI. My query details is I want to count the number of work orders. And this is the where clause. I'm not a SQL person. I don't write these. I get someone in our technical department to write these for us. And this is a pretty simple one, but your where clause can be as complex or as simple as you want it to be to include the information that you need on your Start Center. So we'll go ahead and save this. We'll go back to our Start Center. And now this is the new chart or the new gauge that we set up in our KPI with the new information. And if it changes during the day or you want to see it at a certain hour, you can click the update and it's going to update it. So it updated my counts and my trends. This one wasn't updated. The gauge itself was not updated today, so I'll click update and it's going to pull in the information from today, the trend up through today. So that's about all there is for setting up a Start Center. You could change it by clicking on here, which is what we did. If I save this, it's going to disappear. If I delete it, the saving will disappear, but it'll still be kept in my list of Start Centers, of templates. If I delete it, it won't be available anymore after today. And if I cancel changes, it's going to go back to the way it looked before I made any changes today. So we'll go ahead and save this. Saving my new template. So notice now I'm back to the 3 that I set up in my display settings. If I wanted to add other ones, I click on display settings and I can pull these other Start Centers in. So suppose I wanted to see inventory, but I no longer needed to see operations manager. And now inventory is my default. So your tabs will show up in alphabetical order based on all the Start Centers that you select, unless you choose one to be your default. I'll click OK. Now inventory is my default, but I still have the other ones available. If I were to go in here and modify or change the layout of any of these portlets, it would stay that way even when I closed and reopened Maximo, unless I hit this Update Start Center. And be careful when you hit the Update Start Center, because what it's basically going to do is take you back to the original template, so any changes that you've made will disappear. And that's pretty much it for setting up a Start Center. As we said, if you have any questions, feel free to email us at info@projettech.com. You can also check out our webpage and see all the options that we have and all the offerings we have for Maximo. But to wrap up for the Start Centers, or for the webinar, basically Maximo Start Centers are a quick access to the tools that you frequently use, and that's for the application shortcuts like quick insert or the favorite applications. You can change what appears on your Start Center so that it's individualized to your needs. And you can have multiple Start Centers if you have multiple roles within your organization. The KPIs offer a visual display of performance variables, and they also offer a list of performance variables in one portlet. So you can put as many KPIs as you need in the list portlet. And then the Maximo results set displays the results of a saved query in either list or graphical, or actually both forms that are easily interchangeable on your Start Center, so that you can keep up to date to what's important for you. With that, we'll wrap up the webinar. We hope to hear from each and every one of you. And if you'd like to let us know a future webinar you'd like to see ProjectTech present, please let us know that as well. Thank you and have a great day.